taking place, breaking norms, setting trends. Wage word of the day. Uncontained, making space, cultivating grace. Yeah. Filling space, converging minds on the same page. Every day, every way. Word of the day. Word of the day. Conversation.
Man, what is going on, everybody? What is going on? You know what it is. It's Wade's Word of the Day. Wade's Word of the Day. Let me turn that echo down real quick. How's everybody doing on this wonderful and beautiful Monday? As you all know, I love Mondays, so I'm grateful and thankful to be in the space with each and every one of you. I need everybody to go ahead, tag, text, and tell somebody. Tell them to come on in the space. I see you, Jessica. Holler at somebody. Tell them to come on in the space. Jermaine, we see you. Holler at somebody. Tell them to come on in the space. So grateful and thankful for each and every one of you. Of course, we're here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday evening, 8 p.m. Yeah, we call this Wade's Word of the Day. In the space, we talk about everything, mind, body, and spirit. Nothing is really off limits. And while we understand that our spirituality is the foundation upon which we stand, we want everybody to be good in every area of their lives. And so mentally, physically, and spiritually. And so, hey, this is a good segue for this joint right here by the day.
Yeah. Be alright, be alright. Life is strange, full of pain. Joy and happiness is all the same. But you have to reclaim. Become your best self. Stop tripping off what people say. Don't you know it's gonna be a brighter day, brighter day, brighter day, brighter day. Lift your hands. Do it, y'all. Come on, better, 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 better. Better days are coming. Better days are coming. Better, 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 better.
Yeah, Wade's Word of the Day. Come on, I need everybody to show some love. Take the first 30 seconds, hit those hearts, hit those likes. Come on, do what you do.
Oh yeah, you talking Wade.
Yeah, go ahead and do what you do tonight. Everybody hit those hearts and hit those likes real quick. Take 30 seconds and do that. In the meantime, you can go ahead and tag somebody as well. Just simply use the @ sign. Some names will pop up and just go ahead and click on them and hit the send. Have them come on into the space. Brother John, thank you for coming in. Mondukes has made her way into the space as well. So I'm so grateful and thankful for everyone who has joined us on this Monday evening. So what I want to do tonight, you know, I put something up over the weekend. I believe I did over the weekend, and I want to kind of talk about it tonight. You know what I mean? It's you know, it's a conversation that I don't know if some of us want to have it, but I want to have it tonight. So I got the mic, so I guess we're going to have it. And I want you all to engage in the conversation. If you agree, you agree. If you don't, you don't. It's all good. It's all love. But I do want to talk about it. And so I posted this. Let me put it up real quick. Let me see if I can get it here. So basically, I posted something on the 5th. Yeah, I put basically what my comment was: black bourgeoisie are simply black folk doing white stuff really well. Black bourgeoisie is just simply black folk doing white stuff well. And so from that, got a lot of laughs and all of that, because I added this on to it. You know what I mean?
Message.
Yeah,
Message.
all of that good stuff.
Message.
But
Message.
that's what I want to kind of
Message.
talk about today, right? I want to talk about that, right? And what that means. Let me kill this message, but yeah, and what that means as it relates to that, right? This kind of notion of defining all of these conversations around uh, black excellence and what that means, and I just feel like we don't have a right definition as it relates to that. That's just me personally. You all may think differently, and that's fine. And then I'm raising this question, like, how did we go from in the 1980s to this whole notion of, as folk were trying to win elections and different things like that, talking about welfare queens, how black folks are abusing the system and all of these particular things, right? To this whole notion now of black girl magic and all of this kind of stuff, right? And then asking the question, even in terms of our spirituality, in terms of our church kind of class systems, where we have this kind of notion of, mega and what all that means, or, big three and all of this kind of, that seems like nonsense to me, that from my perspective, in a real way, is really preventive in terms of trying to cultivate the communities and um, specifically black and brown communities, from my perspective, and the growth that is necessary for, because what we end up doing is creating these internal class systems where, this kind of notion of, if I have three letters behind my name, if I drive a certain vehicle, if I live, where white folks live, then all of a sudden, I'm better than. That's the whole notion of this whole black bourgeoisie kind of construct, right? This whole kind of narrative. And oftentimes that drives even our politics, where oftentimes, uh, our politics become more about folks holding seats than actually doing things which will be beneficial for the larger community as a whole, right? So the whole goal is just to get elected and to stay elected, but never really changing the material conditions, on the ground as it relates to poor black um, and brown working class folks. That's just how I see it. And so we're ever getting elected, because the reality is we have more black politicians than we've ever had. And I want to show you some, and to a certain extent it's calculated, because the goal is to keep us afraid of the kind of boogeyman, the kind of boogeyman. I'm thinking of Major Payne right now in this moment, when a little kid comes to Major Payne. He's like, yo, there's a monster in my closet. And Major Payne sends him back to his room and says, man, go back and go to sleep or whatever. He comes back in, says, there's a monster in my closet. Major Payne leaves out of the room. You hear these sounds. And then Major Payne says, well, if there was a monster in the closet, he's dead now. You follow what I'm saying? And so we are forever being bombarded with these bad choices, and oftentimes by these kind of pseudo elites who are supposed to have been put in place to provide greater opportunities, but who seem to only find opportunities for themselves.
Oh yeah, you talking Wade?
You know what I mean? You know, that kind of thing, that kind of thing. And so I was reading something, and you know, this is someone sharing, and you know, let's talk about it. You know, so let me try to put it up, see if I can get it to come through. Let me see. All right, let me put myself down so we can get a full screen. So basically, what Mr. Robert is saying, he's saying one of the things that we definitely see is with the rise of this incorporation, talking about the rise of this kind of black elitist kind of framework nonsense, is that the more that becomes this incorporation into the apparatus of the ruling class by what we call the black political class over time, the more and more the importance of symbolic representation becomes the focus of what is deemed black political aspiration. And the less redistributive policy of trying to change the material conditions of poor and working class black people uh, becomes the point, becomes the focus. So much to the point where you know, he begins to talk about this discussion of how the Democratic Party, in a real way, in the 1980s, began to discover if they could just place folk in these kind of symbolic uh, appointments, you know, pushing these kind of symbolic political candidates, in a real way, they could just keep the status quo going, right? And so, and from my perspective, we see a lot of that today. We see a lot of that today, where we see all of these kind of symbolic things that kind of get us all riled up, but not really too many things that change the material conditions of the collective. Yeah, you know, I've said it before. The problem with the civil rights movement, if there is, well, this is really a big problem for me, is that it was the mass demonstrations of folk, but the ones who benefited the most was not the collective, was just simply individuals. And so when this gentleman talks about how, you know, they could see by just placing people in symbolic positions and getting them tied in to the status quo, then in a real way, instead of opening up spaces for the larger uh, collective, it just kind of now becomes where, you know, we get played and other folk get paid kind of thing, right? And so I'm wondering, you know, as I'm thinking through that, you know, is it more important that we simply, because here's my position: one black face in a high place don't change nothing. And we've seen that, and we've seen that time and time again, over and over and over, this notion of, you know, stick with us because look at all of the black faces. You understand what I'm saying? Look at all of the black folk we put up. But in a real way, has that really changed the material conditions um, within the sphere of our context? And so in a real way, it has created, from my perspective, even within the context of the larger community, where we don't have a community, we have these segments of community, you know, the kind of takers, and who only are concerned about the collective when it affects them. So we got somebody, even right now, you know, he's on the tour. He's hitting all of the kind of Caucasian spots, pleading his case about how certain larger entities are trying to take away his sponsorship, and how we all ought to get behind him because he's operating a black business. But here's the thing: Oftentimes, these type of folk are only concerned about the collective when it affects their bottom line. There was another one, very, very famous individual. We love to kind of see him, do his thing. Super Bowl, we saw him do his thing, and then he gets on, he's talking about the streaming dollars and how we ought to get behind, the folk and how they're not getting their streaming dollars. And my position is, here's the reality. Listen, I'm one of them. I'm like, listen, these folk are getting so much money off of our talent. I'm not mad at anybody who's trying to get it however they can get it free. Because here's the reality. Most of them artists are only getting 10 cents on the dollar anyway. So the majority of that money is not going to them folk who are putting out the content. The majority of that money is going to big corporations, typically who are led by you picking up what I'm putting down. So if you can get it free, that's what I say, because you ain't hurting it. You ain't hurting them. You're not hurting them because they ain't getting nothing anyway. That's the real, y'all. That's the real, right? And so it just becomes kind of frustrating, and that, to a certain extent, I kind of talked about it yesterday when I was saying, God is tired of this skit. Y'all fill that in however you want to fill it in. But it is this notion of, you see these kind of, elites who want to be elites, but ultimately they're just pushing white stuff. And they only concern themselves about the collective as it relates to Black folks if it in fact affects them. Then they want everybody to rally behind them. Aren't you kind of like tired of that kind of nonsense? You getting your little money, you getting your little my little light went up a little bit. Let me turn that down. You getting your little money. That's better. You're getting your little money and all of that kind of stuff, right? But as soon as your money affected by the folk who are actually kind of giving you the money, then all of a sudden you want everybody to rally behind you and you want to talk, that kind of Black stuff. So in this election cycle, you need to be careful. Alexa, pause. This is why I love live. Alexa, pause. Stop. Alexa, stop. Man, Alexa. You know what I mean? Alexa was trying to get me to stop, See what I mean? No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, but you got to be careful in this season, right? You got to be careful in this season because all of these folks will be popping up and will be trying to get you to kind of rally behind them, but their only concern is not really for the collective, right? And so I'm wondering, even when we think about our politics, when we think about some of our structures, when we think about some of our thinking, this is why I say it all the time. Who told you to think a certain way? And even as it relates to what you perceive as being excellent, is doing white stuff really well, really Black excellence? I wonder if anybody in the comment section is thinking white, really Black excellence. Is because you got some corporate sponsors who kind of give you these corporate dollars to go out there and to show all of the ratchetness as it relates to Black folk? Is that Black excellence? You understand what I'm saying? And so certainly, man, I'm not knocking achievement, but what I'm critical of, is these kind of folks who don't really care about Black people. They only care about what Black people can offer them when they need it. So go to school, do your thing, whatever. But don't now, when you have been, running after that white man money, and now when he try to block your white man money or block your position or remove you from a position, OJ, don't now be trying to run back. And we see this over and over again. And not only does it play out in our politics nationally, it plays out in our politics locally. So it's already churning. Ooh, don't you listen to what some of these third parties are talking about, because that's going to, mess it up for Biden. When did I ever say Biden gets my vote just simply because he's Biden or he's a Democrat? Because they keep us locked in, being afraid of this kind of boogeyman. And my position is, over the course of the last 40 years, in terms of the collective, how has our material conditions changed? And so what begins to happen is this kind of Black bourgeoisie class, in a real way, become the gatekeepers that block progress instead of leading to progress, because they're concerned about their own sustainability. So they can't say much. Here's the reality. Some of our leading artists can't say nothing because most of their dollars ain't Black dollars. They white dollars. Now I know people say ain't no color to green, ain't no color to money but green. That's a lie. Look at famous basketball player out of Chicago. Mm-hmm. Franchise gone. That's all I'm trying to get us to understand. And so we really believe that this whole notion of how do I want to say it? How do I want to say it? If we don't start becoming critical about how we see the folk who are supposed to be representing us, beyond just this symbolic notion and that we can't say nothing about them because we don't want to mess them up, that's nonsense to me. If we can't have these authentic conversations, even as it relates to our churches and how we are functioning and how we are, even in that space, creating these kind of classes that go against even what Paul said. So why are y'all having these skirmishes about who is the biggest and who is the greatest? I planted, Apollos watered, but it is God who has given increase. This is all a part of a system that keeps us divided. It's all part of a system that keeps us afraid, all part of a system that would try to suggest to us just because somebody is kind of middle class. But here's the reality: most of these PhDs and all of that, man, maybe making 100,000, 200,000. That's a lot. 200,000 a year is a lot closer to 40,000 a year than it is to 2 billion. Don't get it twisted. You picking up what I'm putting down? A lot closer, lot closer, lot closer, lot closer.
Oh yeah, you talking way.
Lot closer. And so we have these folk who are running around as some sort of standard bearer when at the end of the day, they become the very reason that the collective as a whole becomes stifled. I'm sorry, but that's what I'm thinking through. That's how I see it. And again, I'm not by myself, but this is what keeps us even tied in with a certain party who year after year does nothing, gives us these kind of symbolic wins, get out in front of the camera, always talking about what they gonna do, but they never bring it to the floor to be passed. Never. But will convince you that they're the lesser of the two evils. And my thing is, why do I want evil on any level? Right? Think about it here in my own city. When I look at some of the spaces that folk dwell in, this argument comes, oh, black folks live everywhere. Yeah, I guess. But the material conditions of the masses of working class black folks, which are in fact the majority of black folks, not only nationally, but in most cases locally, the majority of black folks are in working class environments, get up every day, go to work, come home. It is not the elite folk. But oftentimes we turn our whole existence over to folk who could care less about the collective. They're just trying to get theirs. Just trying to get theirs. Just trying to get theirs. And so we should never get drunk because somebody has some letters behind their name. And man, listen, God bless you. I ain't saying you shouldn't do that and everything, but this kind of symbolic kind of stuff we've got to get beyond and get past, because none of that is changing the material conditions of the masses of black folk who yet struggle around on these shores, if you will. All right, ask me a question. What's your thoughts on that? Some of y'all probably. What's your thoughts on that? What's your thoughts on that? Have this kind of black bourgeoisie elite become more detrimental to our existence, or should we continue down this road of, oh, look at that's black excellence? You know what I mean? This whole notion of, because somebody can do white folks stuff really well, that's something we should be subscribing to. I don't think so, but that's just my thought. That's just me. You know what I mean? That's just me. It's such a loosely fitting label. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Help me understand that. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm, I'm asking. I'm asking. What's your thought? Black excellence. Right. Right. Well, well, the way that we define it now, right? The way that we define this notion of that black excellence is based on whether or not somebody can run well, somebody can jump well, somebody may have gone to school, somebody has a certain amount of money, right? You know, that's the criteria upon which we see things, right? You know, this whole notion of, you know, the cream rises to the top and that we need this kind of great black upper class to show certain segments of society that we aren't what they say we are. When the majority of black people aren't what they say that they are, irregardless of the money in their bank account, irregardless of what school they went to, irregardless of their zip code. You dig what I'm saying? And so we're defining it based upon this kind of capitalistic idea of certain things. And so we run in to try to, you know, we run in to try to be somebody, which often leads to us serving ourselves and not really helping to serve others. There it is. I agree with that. Not doing anything related to community. Right. And in many ways, um, you know, I heard uh, retired pastor uh, Pastor Wright. He said something in terms of even when we think about some of the schooling that we receive. You know, they call them, you know, black schools, but in a real way, the things that are taught in there how to be black, do white stuff really well. You know what I mean? Whether, you know, I mean, if we just look back historically at certain things, we would be amazed how most of the things that we are running around here talking about is black excellence is really just doing white stuff really well. And that is a critique because what that says is, to me, what that says is to me, again, you know, what makes you believe that that is so much better? And I would argue that it's not. I would argue that it's not. And so we long to be something, to present ourselves, if you will, in front of certain people so that we won't be seen as or how they perceive or what they would say that the majority of us are, which I would argue that's the opposite, right? I know too many folk who look like me who are upstanding, who don't have a degree at all, takes care of their family, who works hard, who do the right things. And so this whole kind of, you know, who can get in and who can't get in, you know, that's a manufactured thing again to keep us confined, not to open up anything. And so these gatekeepers, I remember what was crazy to me. I remember right around George Floyd, right when that first broke out, and right here in our city, they were going to have a protest, and I just wrote a simple post. I said, "Be careful of what happens now. How the powers to be are going to call in certain black folk, you know, to try to co-opt the situations and the circumstances to confine, to cause that situation to evaporate. They call gatekeepers. And some folk got mad at me, start blocking me. Oh, he's calling me a gatekeeper and this, that, and the third. I ain't named nobody's name. So if you got an offense, that must be you. You dig what I'm saying? I didn't use anybody's name. I just said be careful of what happens next. And just as I said what will happen, it happened. Pulled together this so-called diversity committee that is symbolic, and they only show up and there's only a conversation about them when black folks get the average, the working class black folks, poor black folks see stuff that they don't think should be, and then they call these folk in to kind of temper. And if you look around, them same ones who are sitting on that, those are the ones in this city getting paid. I said what I said. Getting paid. Just reality. That's what's happening. But that's what we call in black excellence, when in fact it's not black excellence. It's really just gatekeeping. That's what it is. That's what it is. It's gatekeeping. And I remember, and so we were going for something, right? We just want to help some children, right? We want to help some children. But when they found out that I was connected to it, you know, it kind of turned into, oh, be careful of him. Because I keeps it 100. I'm not shucking and jiving for the few dollars you throwing. So I get in the room and the person says to me, "Woo, that's a whole lot of money." I said, "That's not a lot of money. That's not a lot of money." Because they wanted me to jump through some hoops that I was just not going to jump through to get those little few dollars that they were throwing.
Oh yeah, you talking way.
That's all I'm saying. And so our politics has to be more than just symbolic. That's what I'm simply saying. And all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And we can't just be happy seeing a black face in a high place. Because history proves that has not changed the material conditions of the working class average black person. That's a tactic that is used to keep y'all glued to certain things while your condition remains the same. Now you watch. I'm telling you right now, you watch. Election coming up, just watch. Watch how the boogeyman comes out in full force. And it's going to come out in full force from a lot of them gatekeepers. I'm telling you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that verse in the Bible. You know, you see them around this season. Why? Because you have been called for such a time as this. Right, you got to get informed. You got to get informed, right? You got to be clear, and that's what that is. So I wanted to talk about that tonight. And I'm sure I probably stepped on some toes, but that's all right. We just having I got a critique of it. I'm offering a critique, and that's what that is. And hey, I said what I said. But yeah, it amazed me how I didn't even use anybody's name, and folks was coming back to me. They was mad at me. They was blocking me and all of this kind of stuff. You know, saying that I called them gatekeepers, all of this stuff. Well, might be true. You got all in your bag about that. You know what I mean? And when I and for some of them, when I see you posting, all you're doing is you ain't got a kind word to say about black folks, but you always bigging up them white folks. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? So that's my conversation tonight. I'm through. I'm done. I'm gonna let it go. I'll let it go.
Don't say nothing.
You talking to me?
Yeah, I think you're talking to you.
Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Let's go out this way. Let's go out this way. I love this song because, yeah, I love this song.
When you sit up, say by grace.
Yeah.
You know God loves you.
Everybody got a pass,
When you sit up, say by grace.
but ain't everybody got to do something.
Don't listen to nobody that claim to know God, that can't show no love, that cold and so hard. And don't say that I never told you, no matter what your sin, His love is there for ya. And I pray before the sun goes down, you turn your life around some way and somehow. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, no, no. When you sit up, no, no, no.
And I got to get out of here.
When you
Here's
sit
today's word of the day.
no, 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 no.
My grandmama started me in Sunday school. Cool. Went in the afternoon too. Got the word doing Sunday service. Easter speeches always made me nervous. And now my sermon's heard over the globe like a pastor speaking in your mega churches. A Powerball, make mega millions. All for my kids and my children's children. Materialism can't take it with you, boy. Only your soul is worth the weight in gold. Only the strong survive till they get old.
Gotta go. Love
Times
y'all.
need to make the soul. What you say when you get to the pearly gates? Open sesame, you through the gates of hell. You wait for these to veil themselves to introduce you to eternal flame and say, oh Lord, I'm sorry. Or I promise I'ma be good, ignore my problems. I receive you, ain't no more commas. No drama, no baby mamas. So I walk through the valley of the shadows. I'm full of life cause the light